Who's your commander?
Good luck.
Equip.
Move to combat. Resolves.
Right.
Now, before you attack,
Does anyone have an answer?
Well played.
Good game.
Hello everyone, my name is DJ and you're watching the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel. Recently, I helped Jimmy Wong on the Command Zone spoil the Lorehold Legacy's pre-constructed deck, and it looks amazing. Not your typical Boros. If you want to check that out, I'll have a link in the description. It is a fun time. We loved the face commander of the deck, but I gotta say, I've got a special place in my heart for the backup commander, Alibou Ancient Witness. And so I decided to build a deck tech around Alibou. Let's take a look. Alibou Ancient Witness is 3 red-white for a 4/5 legendary artifact creature Golem. Other artifact creatures you control have haste. Whenever one or more artifact creatures you control attack, Alibou Ancient Witness deals X damage to any target and you scry X, where X is the number of tapped artifacts you control. Alibou takes your average artifact deck and weaponizes it. All you need is one artifact creature attacking, and then Alibou deals tons of damage. It's not just for your tapped attacking creatures, but it's every tapped artifact that you control. All your mana rocks, all your dorks and activated abilities, and anything tapped. And Alibou just does this fireball wherever you want it. Not to mention the deep scrying, so you can find out exactly what you need. When I first started building this deck, I could not realize the total number of artifacts that we can have tapping in this deck. It's crazy. And when we can finally wrap our heads around it, we're going to realize that Alibou Ancient Witness is kind of like a one-shot mechanic that you can instantly play out of your command zone. It's so powerful. Now, I think all of you can imagine an artifact deck that plays artifacts, right? But how are they all going to get tapped unless you're attacking with them? Well, there are a few cards in here that just tap artifacts. Clock of Omens, tap 2 untapped artifacts you control, untap target artifact. That means if you want to, you can tap every single artifact on your side of the board. But Clock of Omens is even better than that. It's not just for the tapping. You can tap 2 Stupid Thopters and untap your Mana Vault or your Soul Ring. This can be a huge mana engine to let you play bigger and bigger spells. Gear per Aether Grid gives you a ton of reach too. Tap 2 untapped artifacts you control, and Gear per Aether Grid deals 1 damage to target creature or player. I really like the ability to send the damage wherever we like, pick off little creatures, or send it all upstairs and combo it with Alibou to take someone out. Inspiring Statuary can be a huge mana boost. The problem is that we do have a lot of artifact spells in this deck, but when we run into one that isn't, we can usually cast it for very cheap. And then Saheeli's Directive, this is something we can go deep on because we can improvise with all of our artifacts and then reveal cards until we reveal even more powerful synergies, including some combos in here. Next, we can tap every artifact creature that we have by overcrewing something like Cultivator's Caravan. We have a lot of artifacts, but we can turn even more of our stuff into artifacts with Mycosynth Lattice. That means that all we have to do is tap all of our lands, and suddenly they are all tapped artifacts, ready to deal damage with Alibou. We could probably also throw in a Karn the Great Creator if we wanted to shut down our opponent's boards. If everything's in artifacts and activated abilities of artifacts your opponent's control can't be activated, they will not be tapping any of their lands. We can also double up Alibou's trigger with Lithiform Engine and Strionic Resonator. Lithiform Engine just does a lot of things too. So if we have a lot of mana and tapping and untapping abilities, we can just have an artifact deck that grinds people out. And that's kind of the point too, is to have a super fun and synergistic artifact deck that also has this crazy ability in the command zone and lets you scry to whatever piece you need in the deck. Next, I want to take a look at our ramp package because this is an artifact deck that feeds off of a lot of mana. First up, I love the Myr cycle, Gold Myr, Iron Myr, Plague Myr, because they tap for mana, but also we can attack with them and get that Alibou trigger. I love my Soul Ring, but I can't attack with it. I can also attack with cards like Mishra's Factory, Inkmoth Nexus, Blinkmoth Nexus. I can also tap them for mana and then activate them, and they become a tapped artifact. So this is even more reach that's on the battlefield already. Of course, mana rocks are going to be great. Mox Opal is insane, but it's a little expensive. I dream of replicating ring, replicating itself, and then getting 8 more replicating rings so that I can do a ton of damage with Alibou. And then the new Cursed Mirror. I talked about how much I loved it with Jimmy. We both are a fan of this card. And then with Ramp, can't I just throw in Archaeomancer's Map? It doesn't tap, but it's so good I have to talk about it and give it space. Archaeomancer's Map, welcome. Welcome to the Commander table. And then finally, I think that treasures are particularly good because they're very disposable. We can get a lot of them, but also all of these tap abilities synergize really well with it. I guarantee that you've seen a commander table with 10 or 20 treasures on it. Just imagine if we tap all of those, you know, for gear per Aether Grid and then attack with Alibou, it's gonna be a lot. But we also want a lot of aggression. We're gonna put creatures down and we're gonna pump those creatures up. I think a favorite of mine is Loyal Apprentice, just creating a Thopter every single turn as long as we have our commander out. Or Thopter Engineer, giving us a similar effect to Alibou itself. This deck still likes to deal damage, and so it will still like to attack, and that haste is still relevant. Pia and Kira Nalar give us some flyers to deal damage, and also gives us a sacrifice outlet so we can just throw damage around. With the amount of mana that we can produce, I've killed people with Pia and Kira Nalar activations before. I also like the amount of artifacts we have on the battlefield and turning them into huge constructs. Dig Site Engineer is amazing because you can just pay 2 mana and throw a huge relevant monster onto the battlefield. These things will be gigantic because they snowball on top of one another. And of course, Karn Scion of Urza giving us big constructs, but also a little bit of card advantage. As long as we're going wide, we should pump up our team. Jor-Kadeen is regularly going to give our team +3/+0. Steel Overseer is going to tap, love tap abilities, but pump all of our little Thopters and our constructs up even bigger. Angel of Invention is an anthem, but also helps us go wide. And then one of my favorite anthems in this deck has got to be Forsaken Monument, a 5-mana legendary artifact that just pumps our colorless creatures +2/+2. Yeah, we're gonna have this gigantic anthem and an ability to add extra mana and life gain. Forsaken Monument just does it all. But we're not just playing reasonable cards at all points of the curve. We are going big. I love Myriad Construct because this kicks for 7 mana and gets huge. I don't know about you, but all of my opponents play tons of non-basic lands. So Myriad Construct can regularly be a 10/10, a 12/12. And it's okay if it becomes target of a spell because then suddenly you're going just as wide as you need to go. I mean, I might target it if I could in this deck just to create that many constructs and then turn them sideways to kill people. Precursor Golem's a great way to put 3 bodies onto the board, but you know what? I like the classic Mirror Battlesphere. 5 bodies, 7 mana, does direct damage. I like that so much. And you might notice that there's a ton of token creation in this deck because we are going wide. We are trying to flood the board, get through damage, and when we can't get through damage, fireball our opponents with our commander. Idol of Oblivion is amazing. I found myself drawing cards every single turn. It was so good. And also artifacts that just tap for value synergize so well. So what's the play pattern for Alibou Ancient Witness? Well, it's surprisingly strong because artifact decks are resilient and powerful. You start off by playing your artifact ramp. That's like what a lot of decks play. And you have really good examples of artifact ramp. And then you could start landing some token creators, turning things sideways, getting in for chip damage, and start establishing your draw engines and things like that. When you do have a critical mass, or when the game goes on a little bit, you start getting someone low, feel free to drop Alibou, and then suddenly just an attack with a Thopter deals a ton of damage, but more importantly, scries you. And then it doesn't matter if Alibou dies or if there's a board wipe, because you've scryed into exactly what you need to rebuild or exactly what you need to answer your opponent. It's so good. I have been super impressed at how well this deck performs. I like it because it can be aggressive, but it's not like classic turn everything sideways Boros aggressive. Suddenly, as soon as you can't attack, you start attacking on a completely different axis. And artifacts have the ability to combo out, or maybe even just attach a grafted exoskeleton to your Alibou, and then you just get to shuffle up and play another game. All right, everyone, hopefully you enjoyed this deck tech. Let me know down in the comments below how you would build Alibou, what cards are critical in this deck. I would love to hear it. I also want to thank my sponsor, Cool Stuff Inc. They have cool stuff over there. You should check out their Commander HQ. They have a bunch of deck lists all about Strixhaven, so check them out. If you want to buy some cards over there, use the coupon code JUMBO5 for 5% off your order. I also want to thank my patrons. They're spectacular and amazing. They support this channel. Thank you, patrons. And thank you for watching. Thank you to Jimmy and the Command Zone for helping me spoil this amazing pre-constructed deck. I'm so excited to talk so much Strixhaven with all of you. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.